at least a little bit. Ms. Davis, I can always rely on you to interact, so hopefully you don't have laryngitis.
No, I'm good. I'm here.
Okay, good. All right, if you, as you can see, a piecewise function is usually written like this. Okay, and we're gonna do this one right here. This is an example of what I would ask you on a piecewise function. I'd give you this, and I'd ask you to draw it. All right, so we're going to draw it, and I'm going to use well, let's see. Yeah, I'm going to use. I don't have a pencil. I know that's awful, but I don't use pencils, and I don't have a pencil. So we're just going to have to use our imagination because I don't have a pencil. So anyway, take my handy dandy drawer here, and I'm going to put it. That's in the middle of the page, and we're gonna draw it a little bit larger. So let's see. Let's take what we know of the function 4x. We know that can be in the first quadrant. From -2 to +2. So we need to include, -2 and +2. And then -1/2, that's going downhill, and it's got a y-intercept of 9. So that's up in the first quadrant, and it's from 2 to 4. So it looks like we got to at least include -2 to +4 on our x. So I'm going to draw a big graph, and I'm going to include -2 right there. And then, of course, I will include 4 right there. Now, 4x. We know that 4x has a intercept of the origin because it doesn't have a +2 or a -3. So we know it goes through the origin. And we know that it's 4/1 as far as so 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, like that. Okay. So it looks 1, 2, let's see, 4 vertical, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, now I'm not going to draw the line yet because right now it goes from -2 to +4. Well, 4 is right here, so 4 is going to be way up in here. We're going to have to cheat a little bit. So the piecewise function is from -2. So I'm going to have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. So we're going to have to use our imagination. So -4 would be way up here, and -2 would be down here. Now it's going to get a closed dot here and here because it says equal to right here. Oh, it's -2 to +2 right there. Okay, so just ignore this right here because there's -2 and +2. -2 and +2. So that's a piecewise function. And then from +2, we've got to take off from this guy. So this guy, this -1/2 + 9, we know it has a y-intercept of 9. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then it has a -1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2. And I'm going to do one more. 1, 1, 2. But we know it only goes from 2 to 4. So it's going from here. There's 2 right there. So it's going right here to here. And that's 4. down here, and that's 2. This don't exist. Okay, so ignore that. And it has a open circle here and a closed circle here. So that's how you draw a piecewise function. Like I say, I'm not gonna make it a big deal. Just make sure you can draw a piecewise function. And it looks, in the book, they'll have it a whole lot better than I did. There it is. Okay. Now there's joined because they're using graph paper. Graph paper is essential when you do a piecewise function. Okay. That's the only thing I would tell you if you have to draw one. And usually on the test, they have the graph paper behind the, graphing, or I will give you a multiple choice question that'll say which one looks like this. And it'll have A, B, C, and D, and it'll have 4 little graphs there, and you just pick which one looks like this. That's usually the ones I ask. Now, what about reading one? Well, usually they give you one to where you need to read it, like this one right here. And it is increasing from negative infinity to 0. And then, and that would be inclusive of 0. And then from 0, non-inclusive, to infinity, it's increasing. So this one is increasing and increasing. The domain is all real numbers because it's infinity right here with that arrowhead. And then it's here, and this cancels this closed circle, cancels that one out. And then you got this right here. So negative infinity to positive infinity. Same thing with the range, negative infinity to positive infinity, because this closed circle right here cancels out this closed circle. So you have negative infinity to positive infinity because you got 2 arrowheads right here. So you should be able to read a piecewise function. That's the only 2 things that I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to draw a basic piecewise function or find it through multiple choice and make sure you can read one. Now, they can get complicated. The most complicated is called a step function. Let me show you a step function. Now, I would highly suggest that you read this graphing calculator solution, because some of you may not remember how to type in a piecewise function. That shows you. That's page 143. Please make a note of that. And that's just for your information. Okay? So let me find the stepwise function. And you're welcome to, okay, write that down. That is a step piecewise function. Usually you'll see this with like red lights, time you wait at red lights, postage on postage stamps, that type, and it shows you how to do a piecewise function in your calculator. And how do you read a piecewise function? Well, from -3 to almost 2, your answer is always going to be -3. From -2 to almost -1, your answer is going to be -2. From -1 to 0, I'm sorry, that's supposed to be -1. From -2 to -1, your answer is going to be -2. From -1 to 0, your answer is going to be -1. From 0 to 1, your answer is going to be 0. From 1 to 2, your answer is going to be +1. And that's so on and so on. So the third thing I would ask that you be able to do in 2.5 is make sure you understand how to read a piecewise function. The domain is going to be negative because this this covers this. This covers this open circle. This closed circle, this cancels this one. And it's always negative infinity, positive infinity, unless the teacher or the directions tells you otherwise. The domain on a piecewise is always going to be that, and the range is always going to be that integer. So the range is going to be -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to keep on going. So I guess I just need you to be familiar with the piecewise functions, but you're talking about 2 questions on a test. Okay? And please send your questions. If you have questions, send them with Ask My Instructor, because I'm not going to spend a lot of time on piecewise functions. Okay? All right. Any questions on that? So work on the homework, send me questions. I would rather you tell me what questions you have on piecewise functions, because that way, you can answer most of these questions without me. And then those that you can't, I would rather spend time on those rather than insulting your intelligence by telling you what the domain of a piecewise function is. So anyway, let's get back to difference quotient. And that is 2 point. Can somebody tell me how many difference quotient problems we did? Did we do 2 or 5 or 6, or how many did we do? Anybody? Anybody know? Look in your notes, maybe. The reason I'm asking is I can't remember how many I went over with y'all versus the 109 class. That's why I'm asking. And nobody's going to talk to me. It was only a few. Was that 2 or 5 or?
I only have like 2 written down.
I thought it was 2 in here because I went over a lot in 109. There's the difference quotient. Okay. So let's pick one. Let's do this one right here. So I'm going to write it down. And f of x is equal to, let me write it down first and then I'll show it to you, 2x squared minus 3x. Okay, I'm going to rewrite the difference quotient with colors so y'all can see the colors. So do this in blue. So that's going to be f of x plus h minus pink f of x, all that over h. All right, there's the difference quotient. And now what you're going to do is you're going to do what it says. So the blue says that I'm going to take f of x and rewrite it with a big set of parentheses. So 2 parentheses squared minus 3 times parentheses. And then what am I going to do for the pink? Well, it just says put f of x there. Okay, f of x is 2x squared minus 3x. And all that's going to be over h. Now somebody tell me, what am I going to plug in to these 2 parentheses here? That means I want somebody to say something or type in something. That means I'm interacting with y'all. That's a cue. X minus h. Thank you. X plus h. I think that's what you meant. So x plus h. And I colored that green for y'all. Y'all are so lucky to have a teacher like me to do these little things for you. X plus h. Now what? Now it's 100% algebra. So this is where you're going to see if you really suck at algebra or not. So here we go. I'm going to take my blue and I'm going to say, okay, that's going to be 2 times, oh, that's shortcut number 1. X squared plus 2xh plus h squared minus 3x minus 3h. And I'm going to distribute that negative, and that's going to give me a negative and a positive. And that's going to be negative 2x squared plus 3x. And all that's over h. Now I'm going to distribute that 2x squared plus 4xh plus 2h squared minus 3x minus 3h minus 2x squared plus 3x. And all that over h. Now at this point, there should be something canceling out. And usually what cancels out is the non-h terms. So the 2x cancels and the 3x cancels. And usually what's left is nothing but h terms. Now that's not going to happen all the time, but most of the time you're going to be left with a lot of h terms. And you always factor out the h. And that's going to be h 4x plus 2h minus 3. And divide that by h. And of course, the h's cancel. And you're left with the answer. Now, algebraically, this is the answer. So your answer in this class is 4x plus 2h minus 3. That's in Math 109/110. Now, why am I telling you 109, 110? Because this is your first unit test in calculus, is to be able to take this, and I'm going to show you. You don't have to write it down. I don't want you to write it down. You can if you want to. But I'm going to show you the next step so you will see what your first calculus test will be like. Okay? This is for your information. Your answer is 4x plus 2h minus 3. And of course, that's an algebra answer. In calculus, you're taught the limit theory. And I'm not going to go into it today because I don't need to. That's calculus. And h approaches 0. And that's going to take out, you'll write this. And what's 2 times 0? It takes out that h terms, and that leaves 4x minus 3. And that is your calculus answer, which is called the derivative. Now, some of y'all that's had pre-calculus, you know what I'm talking about, or you have heard that word before. Okay, this is what you're going to learn your first unit in calculus. So that's why this is like a 15 on a scale of 1 to 10. This right here is a 15 on a scale from 1 to 10 of importance. So make sure you can do to that right there. Okay. So let's do a nerd. Let's check to make sure we know what we're doing. Let's see if we got it right. Look there. 4x plus 2h minus 3. We are cooking with peanut oil. I'm sorry, OIL. You didn't say it right, Hubert. Oh, I'm supposed to say it like oil. Okay, let's go with another problem. I would like a quart of oil, please. Y'all say oil, oil, oil. I'm trying to find another one. Let's just make one up. Let's just go to the homework and find one because they're doing composites here. We already covered that. If we ever get to the homework, I'm about ready to quit. Here we go. They're doing it in steps right here. There we go. Let's do.
Priority 1 message coming in on secured channel.
Let's do one that y'all will skip because you're scared of. 78. Let's do 78. 78 says f of x is equal to 1/2 x squared plus 4x. Now, why would y'all shy away from that? Because it's got a fraction, and hell, y'all don't even know how to read a tape measure. And I mean y'all, I don't mean everybody in here, I mean just students. We got high school graduates can't even read a tape measure. So f of x plus h, or make change, minus I'm writing this down. I'm going to show it to you in just a second. F of x all over h. Okay. So get to it. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to start on it. I'm not saying you're going to finish it. Oh, I shut down the McDonald's, Miss Maxon, a long time ago up there on 81 before they renovated. I went in there one day and I was heading to the cattle sale, which is right across 81. And I stopped there to get something to eat, and I ordered a combo, and it came up to be like $5.86. Okay, and he said 5.86, and I said here's a 20, and I gave him 86 cents. But I did the unthinkable. I did it after he punched in $20, and oh my Lord, he looked at me like, what's 86 cents for? And I just sat there and looked at him. I said, here, and he didn't want to take it. He said, I'm not. He said, I've already typed it in. I said, I don't care. He said, here's 86 cents. He had to call the manager up there. The manager had to go get a calculator. This is no joke. This is no joke. He had to get a calculator and type in. And then he said, oh, I only owe you $15. Well, we've done it to ourselves because these teachers, and I'm saying in college and in K through 12, they have told students to depend on their calculator. They have taught students to depend on their calculator. And the product is you got students that can't even make a sandwich when it comes to critical thinking. And they can't put 2 plus 3 together. And that's why you got people that are on cash registers that can't make change. And you also have people going to construction sites that can't read a ruler because they were taught, use calculator, you don't need to use fractions. So I'm glad somebody sees it besides me. So my kids make fun of me and say, Daddy, you're just being too critical. No, I believe if you are running a business and you have people on a cash register, they ought to be able to make change without a calculator. And I would tell you another story, but I'm not going to. Once they punch a thing and dose the register, yeah, they can't open it back up. I work at Little Caesars. We have people who do that sometimes. Okay, well, that's understandable. Okay, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about people that sit there and look at you like, what's this for? You know, I actually had a student do that at a restaurant down in Charleston. It's a place called Piecewise. I think it's Piecewise. And it's an old gas station that they turned into a restaurant. Great food, and great atmosphere. It looks like an old, general store. And Seaway Outpost, loved it. And I walked up to that woman, and it's out. Okay, yeah, it's out. Yeah, it's like 6 or 8 miles outside of Mount Pleasant, right? And on your way to Georgetown. Oh, okay. And I actually went in there, and I had 5 people with me, and I paid for everybody. So I went as my family basically, and I went in there, and she looked at me and gave me this look, like, "What's that for?" And I was giving her to change to make it an even, dollar amount to give me back, and she just like looked at me and didn't know what to do, and I was like, and of course, she had to get the calculator out. So anyway, I'm sorry, I'm venting. It's your fault. It's your fault, Mrs. Maxon. You brought that up. But Mr. Stiles, you are correct. Once it closes, but they should be able to have a key to where you should be able to open it. But I understand. Yeah, it's your fault, Mrs. Maxon. It's your fault. All right, here we go. I'm going to rewrite 1/2 parentheses squared plus 4 times parentheses minus f of x, and all you got to do is rewrite f of x divided by h. And I'm going to give you another minute or two because I was talking, and x plus h goes right there. And I'll start you off by 1/2 x squared plus 2xh plus h squared plus 4x plus h, 4h minus 1/2 x squared minus 4x. All right, now you got to finish it. It's the Russian collusion. That's what it is. That's why we can't make change, because of the Russians. I'm going to distribute the 1/2. That's going to be 1/2 x squared plus 2 times 1/2 is 1. So that's going to leave xh plus 1/2 h squared plus 4x plus 4h minus 1/2 x squared minus 4x all over h. And take our handy dandy red pen out. And the 1/2 x squared cancels. And the 4x cancels. Oops. It's supposed to be a h right there. Oh yeah, the Russians are cause of everything. If anything's not, listen, I don't know if that's Mr. or Miss Ramey, I'm sorry, but if something don't go the way you want to in your life, Ramey, you just blame the Russians. That's what you do. We have to calculate doses and insulin, and it blows some people's minds. I know, and that's a good thing. And hopefully y'all can do that without, calculators. But you sure do. I would hope that you check with a calculator or have somebody go behind you and check. But yes, that's a good thing if you can do those in your head. That's nothing, and you won't have Alzheimer's either, because they say that the more science and math that you study, the less chance that you have Alzheimer's. I don't know. I read that somewhere. I don't know if that's true or not, but I read it in some it wasn't Facebook or anything. I actually read that somewhere 2 or 3 years ago. So, Miss Davis, hopefully, if you do that every day for 20 or 30 years, you won't have Alzheimer's.
I'm not doing it for 20 or 30 years, but
what?
Yeah,
I didn't hear you. What?
I said I hope I'm not doing it for 20 or 30 years, but
Well, at least you got that going for you. You might not have Alzheimer's as bad.
yeah, it's literally like if there's 300 units per milliliter and this pen has 3 milliliters, how long is it going to last them?
Yeah.
And I
And
guess
you have some students that they don't have a clue.
Yeah, it's too
So
hard.
I'm not preaching to the choir. I'm not making this stuff up, am I?
Not
Okay.
a,
So, and we're not talking about, we're not talking about making O-rings for the space shuttle. Okay, we're talking about basic mathematics. And that's what's so sad. All right, so XH plus 1/2 h squared plus 4h over h. I'm just rewriting what we got. And I'm going to factor out a h. And that's going to leave x plus 1/2 h plus 4 over h. And our red pen comes in and takes that out. And your answer should be x plus 1/2 h plus 4. Unless I've made a careless mistake somewhere. All right, let's do one more. And I would highly suggest that you put a tab on this section of your notebook, like one of those little plastic tabs, and put DQ, not for Dairy Queen, but for difference quotient. Because if you don't take this notebook in your first unit of calculus, I don't know what to think, because you need to. What we're covering in this, for this notebook or for this, you need to either review it before you walk into a calculus class, or you need to take the notebook with you to class to remember how to do some of the stuff, because it's going to get rusty. Let's look at one more. Does anybody see one they want to try to do right here? Anybody want to pick one? I'll do one more and I'll let y'all pick it. Nobody's going to pick one. A 75 through 86. 79. All right, let's do 79. Ooh, you like punishment, don't you? All right, so x to the third. We'll have to write small. F of x is equal to x to the third. Well, you picked a good one, Mr. Cash, because if you can do number 79, you can pretty much do any of these, unless you just have a phobia against fractions, because 79 is the lengthiest one. 79 and 80 are the two lengthy ones. So that's probably why you picked it. All right, so I'm going to close this out and bring this up. And I'm going to do it. And the reason I keep doing it, the colors, is so hopefully you will have your own system of doing this. Okay, I use colors, and maybe you use brackets and parentheses. I don't know, but I use colors. So f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. So I'm going to rewrite parentheses cubed minus, and then just write f of x, x to the third. And some of y'all might say, well, this ain't going to be long. Well, you got to remember, you can't do x plus h to the third unless you break it up. And plug in your x plus h. And that is not doable unless you break it up into a quadratic and a polynomial. And that's where it gets fun. So I'm going to break it up into x plus h squared times x plus h to the first power. The reason I'm putting the first power is to show you 2 plus 1 is 3. That's why I'm leaving that 1 there. You don't have to. And I'm writing small because this next step is going to kind of be monotonous. Minus, and you don't even need the brackets anymore for this, x to the third over h. Now, what I want you to do, I'm going to give y'all 4 minutes. I'm going to put it on the stopwatch. Give you 4 minutes to break this out. You got to use the shortcut number 1 here. Then you got to use the distributive law, distribute the x, distribute the h, and then cancel out. So you got 4 minutes. And of course, if you can't do it, we all know what that means. I can't find the stopwatch. There we go.
Priority 1 message coming in on secured channel.
And y'all need to hurry because we only got 7 minutes before some of y'all spontaneously combust. We got close to a minute left. Now this is where students get kind of bumfuzzled, is because they forget how to distribute the X and the H. And that's where the careless mistakes drop in, as well as the Alzheimer's moments where you forget, or the whatever you call it, forgetful moments. Okay, that's closing in on 4 minutes. And that's 4 minutes. So I'm going to distribute this X in my head, and that's going to be X to the third plus 2X squared H plus XH squared. Then I'm going to distribute the H in my head, and since I've got a X squared H, I'm going to call it X squared H right here. And 2XH squared and H to the third. And then minus X to the third. I'm not going to put the H. I'm going to do that at the end. So let's go ahead and see what can condense. That X to the third comes down. X squared H plus X squared H is 3X squared H. And 1XH squared plus 2 is 3XH squared. And then plus H cubed minus X cubed. And of course you see that the X cubes cancel. And you're left with, I'm going to go ahead and factor out a H, 3X squared plus 3XH plus H squared all over H. So your final answer for this one is 3X squared plus 3XH plus H squared. Now, I would say that's probably 5 questions that we've done, and I guarantee you some of y'all are going, okay, I see what he's doing. He's doing it the same method every single time, and he's doing this, this, and this. I'm starting to get it. That's what you should be saying, okay? If we just did 5, this is the 5th, I think 5th or 6th. Somebody tell me in your notes how many you have now. You should have 5, I think. 4 or 5. If you're saying, I have no clue what he's doing, then we need to meet, because I've done everything I've done everything possibly to show you how to do it, in a systematic, write the function down, put the difference quotient over here in whatever way you like to do it, and then fill in what you need to. Okay? Anybody count? How many do you have in your notes? Anybody that takes good notes? You should have about 5. Good. And that's about how many 109 has. Now, you may want to go onto the 109 and look at the ones we did in 109. We did those yesterday, I think, or the day before. I can't remember. And yes, you can go into the 109 channel and look at those if you want to. Now, I've got a minute before some of y'all start self-combusting. The review in Chapter 2, that's going to be the Unit 1 test. Okay? I'm going to give you that test when we finish 3.1 through 3.4, which is pretty much all completing the square. We're going to do 10 problems completing the square from difficulty level of 1 all the way up to 10. We're going to do 10 problems, and that will be 3.1 through 3.4, give or take a couple of things. And then you will see why I put these 2 tests together. Now, this will be partially Unit 1, Unit 2, because I'm just going to say Chapter 3 test, because I break up the Chapter 3 test, the Unit 2 test, into 2 or 3 tests. Okay, and I do that for your benefit. So these 2 tests we're going to be taking together, so it's going to be probably another week or 2 before we take this test and this test. Now, a lot of you say, well, we're going to forget all of this. No, you're not going to forget all of this. And why is you're not going to forget this, because this is in this. Okay, so you're not going to forget it. The vertical and horizontal shifts that make up a lot of Chapter 2 are in here. So it's not like you're going to forget anything. And when you get finished with these right here, and you do those homework problems, and you go, okay, I know completing the square, this is going to be a piece of cake. So just trust me, and y'all continue to finish the Chapter 2 homework. As of Friday, y'all should be finished with the Chapter 2 homework, except for questions that you send to me. Okay? So with that being said, let me go over to the handy dandy. I'm going to turn off the presentation and the recording and check to see if any